You made it through your first month in a nursing leadership role. Congratulations. Do you feel like you're out of the woods yet? If you said no, good, because you're not. But you don't have to worry, because I'm going to unpack the top 3 mistakes to avoid in your second month in a nursing leadership role. Let's get into it. Mistake number 1 is failing to create boundaries. Why is this a problem in your second month? Well, the reality is you're starting to settle in, and everybody else is starting to kind of figure out who you are. So other stakeholders in the hospital know what you're in charge of now. Your team is starting to get to know you, and they know that you're the boss. So what happens is the flood of communication starts, or really picks up, during this second month. All of your direct reports are going to start coming to you with all their questions, all the issues they want you to solve. Other stakeholders are going to come to you for the problems they want you to solve on your unit, the projects they want your input on, and the committees they want you to join. If you allow a free-for-all with communication now, it's going to be very difficult to dial it back later on. So what do you do about it? 2 things you can do. Number 1, you need to have set work hours and bookend your day. You want to start your day at a consistent time and end it at a relatively consistent time. Now, obviously, I know you can't always control every aspect of this, but to the extent you can, try to have a consistent start and end time to your day, and install routines at the beginning of your day and the end of your day. So when you first come into the office or the unit, you have a set number of actions you run through that gets you set up for the day. And then at the end of the day, you have a different set of actions you go through to wrap things up, unhook, and then go home so that you can leave work at work. So now in that second month is a good time to get those habits dialed in and establish the expectations of when you're going to be around and when you're not going to be around. The second thing you can do is set up communication guidelines. In 2026, a big problem is that we have too many ways to communicate. We have emails, we have phone, we have Slack or Teams messages. There's probably have messaging in your EMR system that people use. We have like phones on the unit in a lot of hospitals. Like, you can't possibly be monitoring all of those channels all the time just in case something comes through. You're going to go insane. So set up some guidelines. You can't obviously tell everybody in the hospital how to communicate with you, but you can work out some agreements with your team that you oversee and the people that you directly collaborate with on a regular basis. An example of this with one of my teams, we had an agreement that if my staff needed me for something urgent that they needed my immediate input or attention on, they would call my cell phone. And that was the only time they would call my cell phone. This did a couple of things. Number 1, it's a natural triage system for me. If I see one of my staff members calling my cell phone, I know I need to pick that up. So if I'm in a meeting, I get out of the meeting. It also creates just a little bit of friction on their end, that they have to think, okay, do I really need him right now? Is this an immediate issue? Of course, they had other ways to contact me about non-urgent things, but it slowed them down enough so that it wasn't just this constant bombardment of, I need you, I need you, I need you, for frivolous things. Now, this can take some time to work out, so you're gonna have to have some conversations, maybe do some experiments, be willing to adjust it over time, but start that conversation now. The earlier you normalize this discussion of like, what's the best way to communicate, the easier it's gonna be to negotiate more functional agreements later on. So don't wait just because you're new to start like establishing some expectations around how communication happens. But there's another mistake that is kind of sneaky, and that's failing to clarify expectations. Why is this a problem in your second month? Well, you're really not perceived as brand new anymore, even by some of the senior leaders, because if you've gotten through the structured onboarding phase and you've managed your first 30 days pretty well, people kind of assume you're on your feet now. And what can happen with that is that some critical elements of your job and certain responsibilities may not be clearly communicated to you in this phase. It's not because anybody has bad intentions, it's just that these topics are maybe not top of mind. A good example of this might be if you're hired at a time when it's not time to prepare the budget, there may be things that you need to know or be doing now to be prepared for that budget cycle. But nobody's talking about them, and it's not coming up naturally in conversation. And if you don't know to ask about them, you could be blindsided come budget time by things that you're like, man, it would have been nice to know that 6 months ago. So what do you do about it though? Well, I recommend that you start writing something called a personal job description. Now, I don't mean like a formal document like the one that you sign in HR, just a simple document where you outline your understanding of your responsibilities and the outcomes that you're accountable for. And it's not just like a reflective journaling exercise either. This is meant to be a centerpiece of intentional conversations you have with your boss to clarify exactly what is important and what you're accountable for in your role. And it's a living document. You're going to update it over time throughout your career. And it's going to save you so many headaches because it will help you to understand what really matters. Now, the third and final mistake is probably the most impactful, and that's trying to do it alone. You see, leadership is situational, so there's just going to be times where you need someone else's perspective, someone who's not emotionally or politically invested in how things turn out. Other times you just need a listening ear, someone to hear you vent about how frustrating that employee is or that situation and how you can't believe how it was handled. So what you need now is to find a mentor, and this is a good time to start looking in this second month. A good mentor is typically a peer, somebody who's lateral to you in the org chart, not above you, though you could seek out someone senior to you. And ideally they have like 2 or 3 years more experience than you do, because then hopefully they'll still remember, what it's like to be in your shoes and empathize with you. If you can't find somebody who you think would be a good mentor, connect with me on LinkedIn, we'll talk. There's obviously a number of other things you could be doing to set yourself up for success early on. If you want that kind of tactical guidance, pick up my survival guide for new nurse managers. The link's below.